you playing?
Hello, and welcome to What the Bleep Are You Playing? A podcast where we play a game, many times bad, and tell you why the bleep we played it. I'm Sean, and I like to talk to tomatoes. This is Thomas, a squash who can make you smile, and Mason, who likes to waltz with potatoes up and down the produce aisle. And oh boy, do we have a show for you. We played... Larry Boy and the Bad Apple. The GBA.
Yeah, that's right. It's our third time getting kicked out of the grocery store.
Our technically second revisit this season, but a different kind of revisit.
This is this the first port of a game that we've already played that we've played?
We talk a lot about it
And
throughout it
because
because we bring up the Game Boy ports that either were considered worse or better. We brought up the PSP ports several times, the DS ports, the Simpsons movie one.
Yeah, we brought up
For the DS.
the Simpsons movie DS game. We brought up the G.I. Joe Rise of Cobra DS game.
Mm-hmm.
We've brought up a couple.
The
DS
Wolverine
games.
X-Men.
The
X-Men Wolverine
X2
one.
Wolverine's Revenge.
Yeah,
on the Game
there
Boy
we go.
Advance.
That had the Game Boy Advance. So we've done it before. We've always talked about, hey, these are ones we might come up with, but we really wanted to get back into VeggieTales, and there are only 2 games to pick from, so here's number 2.
Because
Well, only 2 console games.
yeah, there's
to pick 2.
Yeah, there's plenty of PC like point and click adventure games or whatever.
Well, you say plenty. There's like 3.
That's more than the console gets.
Yeah, that's
There is
fair.
1 console and 1 handheld, the port of it. And that's this, the Larry Boy and the Bad Apple for the GBA.
It really is kind of a shame that VeggieTales
Oh.
just didn't get more video games.
I
Yeah.
wonder if some of it is just how hesitant Christian culture for the longest time and still now is towards video games.
Yeah,
Like there are
yeah.
legitimate people growing up in the church. There are legitimately people that think any video game is Satan. You know, you're playing Pong and you're letting the devil in.
And there was also
Yeah.
I think you mentioned
Play
it in
Hello Kitty Island Adventure, and it's like, oh, you unleash Beelzebub.
Yep, that is
the
how
demon and it becomes Hell Kitty. Anyways, I think you mentioned it in like one of the bajillion conversations we've had about VeggieTales, about how like there was kind of a Christian aversion to VeggieTales. Even
There was
Yeah.
even a little bit of that, yeah, because it was, it played, fast and loose with some things, and, also was Old Testament, was, it was, newfangled computer graphics. There was a lot of things that, like, okay, there was kind of a little bit of a splinter at times in the church, and I think the cool kids all knew that VeggieTales was awesome, and that's why we always talk about it and are back to it. But yeah, and so I think there is an element of maybe it was a harder sell to get the video games, or just companies never really like inquired. Hey,
I mean, there's also the fact that Christian video games in general also do not, like most Christian media, it doesn't have a really good reputation. Yes, that's the word. Thank you.
Also, I was incorrect on my count. There are 7 PC VeggieTales games.
Big Idea had a website, so I assume there was a bunch of stuff eventually.
Oh, there were there were a few
There are
Flash
a bunch
games.
of Flash
yeah.
games.
So
I forgot about that, man.
So yeah, because whenever people think Bible video games, I mean, what do you think of the Bible game on the NES? The Noah's Ark, the Doom mod that was Noah's Ark.
Mm-hmm.
The Noah's Racing,
Yeah, the Bible Man PC games. Like,
Ooh,
what
yeah.
else are you gonna think of?
the
So,
Bible
yeah.
game for the Xbox.
Yeah, so like it's most of them are pretty bad, and that's the thing I think we talked a lot about in the first season when we talked about Bad Apple on the PS2, was that it was first and foremost a VeggieTales game that was there to for the fans, and then was a pretty decent performing platformer second, and it wasn't worried necessarily about proselytizing despite showing the episode.
Which I think is important because I guess a note to Christians out there. you're not really gonna get people into your religion by shoving it down their fucking throats.
Yes.
So
Preach.
So I feel like just
Amen to that.
Anything else? No. So I feel
Testify. There we go.
So I feel like doing something like this, where it's just a fun game, and it happens to have a Christian message. There you go. That's important.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
no one is watching Prince of Egypt because it's a Christian movie. They're watching Prince of Egypt because it fucks.
It's a great movie.
I think the thing that is always important kind of about the VeggieTales, the message has always been, God made you special, and he loves you very much. It doesn't say, what you have to do or what rules or whatever. It's like, hey, God loves you.
Yeah, to be fair, what I needed to do before I watched this damn episode before we did this damn episode is it's literally...
Oh, we're reaching for the bookshelf.
It's literally on my shelf. I should have read
the Phil Visor.
Oh,
Yeah, the Phil
I
Visor.
didn't realize you had that. I may
Yeah.
have to borrow that from you.
Yeah, I need to read this damn thing. But spoilers. I don't know why I said that. An earlier episode we did was on Charlie Brown and It's the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown, where we talked
Yes.
about how Charles Schultz was Christian but had a really big hate boner for evangelicalism.
Yep.
Part of me wonders if Phil Vischer's the same way.
There
Oh,
might
yeah,
be
he's
some...
a-
Because when you actually look at his stuff, like, he is very much against a lot of the stuff Christian people say, like, trans people can go to hell, and he's like, you can go to hell, I like him, so...
Yeah, he's Phil Fisher is a really chill guy.
Yeah, so...
It's really a shame that he gets screwed over a lot.
Yeah, well, that happens when you're a decent guy in show business, sadly.
Yeah.
But anyway, moving on.
But I think that is important here. And hey, plug, go to our Patreon and listen to our Great Pumpkin Charlie Brown episode. It was a lot of fun to talk about. But that is when we have talked about a lot of these classic things that maybe we grew up on that kind of are in the evangelical circles a lot of times, or the quote unquote classic traditional households watch it type of things like that. That a lot of times the creators, the message that has been a lot of said by those are not what the creators were wanting. Charles Schultz especially. And we talked a little bit about, Phil Visor and the VeggieTale stuff, like, that he wasn't going to do Jesus because his mom was like, don't you dare make Jesus a vegetable.
Right.
And that everything, everything was at a child's level. It was never, it is basic, Bible proselytizing, but not in the same way that's like down your throat, in your face, that a lot of other Christian media is, a good example is like the Larry Boy movies, like, or the episodes. Larry doesn't necessarily defeat them. It's usually Junior who admits his mistakes and stops them. But it's very different from, say, like the Bible Man episodes that are like, and then I grabbed my Bible and it got a sword and I prayed and now I got things like that.
One of them is literally he prays and a fucking like Star Trek ass cone appears around him, and then the bad guy hits it and the bad guy dies.
Yeah, it's one of those sort of things that, like, there is a very real world, you put a Christian lens on it, and that's really okay, and a biblical lens on it, but it is also a very real world, like, how, if this rumor weed was just a rumor that was out there, how would you fix that?
Yeah.
And it's not just like, well, I prayed to Jesus and Jesus pulled it away. It's no like, I had to admit my mistakes. I had to say I was sorry. I had to grow and become a better person, because if I didn't, it was going to, I had to nip it in the bud, type of things like that. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of what a lot of VeggieTales was, is it's not necessarily as much of like, this magic thing happened that none of you can think. It was more of like, no, let's be good people. And this is, we're going to abide by these, our definition of good is going to come biblically, but we're just going to stand and say, hey, we're going to show goodness, and we're going to say, let's be good people, and God made you special, and he loves you very much.
Yeah.
Now notice we went on that big VeggieTales tirade. That's because this is a VeggieTales game, but it's one with very little fucking information.
Yeah,
There ain't no Wikipedia pages. There is a whopping 4 critical reviews on Metacritic.
Wow.
Ironically split right down the middle, too good, too meh.
Yeah. There's no bad, but
did any of you guys find anything on the developer?
This one, it's Crave. Crave, who usually publishes a lot of games, also developed this game.
Yeah, they developed this one in house.
Mm-hmm.
What else have they done?
Crave,
tons of stuff. Like they're
in terms of publishing, fuck.
Before they went bankrupt in 2012,
they did Cartoon Network
They
did Cartoon Network Punch Time Explosion.
Hey, future episode.
The
Hopefully.
list is huge of all the things they published. They published a lot of licensed games, and they developed a few of them in house.
Okay.
So a lot of GBA games, and they did. I'm pretty sure they did a lot of the GBA ports of a lot of the games that they would publish and things like that.
So what I'm hearing from this is that they were they were the perfect people to make this game.
Yeah, honestly,
Yeah,
and you know, as we transition from our soapbox VeggieTales conversation and more to the game here, but whereas the PS2 game was a platformer, and a fine platformer. We had fun. It had its issues, but it was fun. But the VeggieTales is what stuck out for us. This is a 2D puzzle platformer. Yeah. And does that fit VeggieTales, specifically Larry Boy, so well?
Yeah, this game is basically like, hey, have you played Mario vs. Donkey Kong? There you go.
What if it was Larry Boy? Yeah. And that's basically what it is.
Mm-hmm.
It's very simple controls. R is sprint, A is jump, B is interact, L is push and pull shit. That's basically it.
Yeah.
But to be fair, that's also all the buttons on the GBA.
Yeah, the thing that immediately, when playing it, immediately is like, yeah, wow, this is really simple. They'll show you at the beginning of the level, here's the new move you learned, especially in the first world. This is how you do these things, and they'll show you it, and then you go and do it in the world. And you'll pull it off, you're like, wow, that was easy. But also, I feel really rewarding, like, when I finish this map. Like, it is rewarding, whereas something like Jim Henson's The Muppets that we played last season on the Game Boy Color, which weirdly is only 4 years younger than this game. And
really?
Yeah, because it was 99.
No, it was
5 years.
6.
6. Okay, yeah, this was 2005. Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, 6 years difference. So not that big of a difference, but that game was just cruel. There was no reward for doing anything. This game, as you succeed, it feels good to pull off moves, to do things, and to complete the puzzles. Which is something that game really could have used.
You know what? Right. You know what was rewarding with Jim Henson's Muppets? Turning it off.
I already made that joke earlier in the day before you got here.
Yeah,
that's really funny.
So basically, again, it's very much a puzzle platformer. Larry doesn't really have any attacks. It's more you just avoid the enemies the whole time, and I'm fine with that.
Yeah, that was and I'm comparing it a lot to Muppets because that's our other Game Boy game we've played on the podcast. So that's where even though they are very different styles of games.
That's right. We've only done 2.
This is our second one,
and
I think where that game really annoyed was remember the enemies and how much ammo we had to expend and how little there was in this. They don't worry about that. Yeah, enemies will affect you, and if you hit them, they'll either, your controls will get reversed, you can't use your power-ups, there's a pesky P that will keep flipping the switch off. The enemies are just there to be, annoyance and not, kill you, not stop you. It's to be, because your health meter or whatever, or your goal is to just beat the timer. And so they're there to make sure you don't make the timer. And that's actually a really smart way to do this. That instead of being like, oh, you hit a guy, it doesn't matter, and with a timer, it's like, no, they're just here to be deterrents. They're here to annoy you. And that's a really good idea for enemies in a puzzle platformer.
Yeah, that's how most puzzle platformers do it. I say most because, fuck, there's probably one out there where it's like, oh, you're solving puzzles? Well, the enemy has a gun. But, basically, yeah. I don't want to say there's not a lot to say on this game, but it is kind of self-explanatory. Mm-hmm. I will say, if you want my advice, if God forbid someone listens to this episode and they're like, you know what, this game sounds like it goes hard. Let me buy Larry Boy
it's
in the
pretty cheap online.
It is pretty cheap. I think I found it for $6.
I think I got mine for 10, 11.
Nice.
Wow.
Oh, that explains why yours works and mine doesn't. So.
Those $5 extra go a long way.
But, you want my advice? Never stop holding sprint.
Yes.
That was my advice. The Larry Boy was flippy-dippy all over the place because I never stopped holding sprint.
And I think that leads into, what is my favorite thing about this game. The sprite, the colors, and the music.
Yeah.
Like, not all the sprites are perfect, and not all the designs are perfect. It's a GBA game, and we're playing it on in a format that it was not intended to be played on a giant screen.
Yeah, no.
So there is that element to it. But the sprite work for the VeggieTales stuff are all adorable and funny, which is, remember when we booted up the Muppets? We're like, oh, those are cute. Why are they're all bad from that point on?
Yeah, this one actually carries on.
Mm-hmm. At least when I look at the sprite art in Larry Boy, I understand what it is.
And that is the difference between Game Boy Advance and Game Boy Color. There is a lot of step, but the sprite work is so much better. It's not and it has soul. It has, and that's the thing is, even when it doesn't always look right, like some of the designs, the logos, things like that, don't look as right. But you can definitely be like, that's still I can see the color and the intention to do that. And some of the stuff, it's like, it wasn't meant to be blown up this big. That's why it looks weird.
Right.
You can get away with it not being 100% correct because it's a little tiny thing in the corner, not an actual couple of inches tall.
I think the thing that I do appreciate with this game in comparison to Muppets is that the Muppet game, to me, for lack of a better term, it felt really half-assed. It didn't feel like anybody put their whole heart into it. Whereas with this game, it could have been very easy to half-ass this game because it's like that VeggieTales. It's at the time it was fairly popular, but it wasn't.
It was on the downturn at this point.
It was on the downturn at this point. It's not like the biggest thing in the world. I don't think anybody would really care at that point if they half-assed this game. Mm-hmm. But since they didn't, the ones like us that are the three of us sitting around microphones talking about this game, for the ones that actually care about things like this, it feels a lot nicer that they didn't half-ass it like they could have.
Yeah. And then the thing that they absolutely did not need to add, they could have just half-assed and didn't.
The music.
The music.
I know exactly where you were going with that.
And again, they aren't perfect one-to-ones for the music, but the moment you get, I think it's the second world I booted up, and I started to realize, I was like, that is Hairbrush. That's Where Is My Hairbrush? Oh my gosh. That is... I'm running through a level and Where Is My Hairbrush is playing.
I loved it. There were the multiple some of the levels that I played. I loved being able to point out the music. Like, oh, it's that song. Especially the ones that I pointed out and you guys didn't.
Yeah, there were several I didn't recognize. Admittedly, I am a fake fan. I'm sorry.
Sorry, I'm gonna pretend I definitely recognized Promised Land. Definitely.
You have both been exposed for the fake fans that you are.
I'm gonna be honest. When I lost my shit was the bunny.
Yeah.
When the bunny started up, and I instantly recognized that one.
Because they introduced it in the perfect world. It would come back later in other ones, but the world had a casino background feel to it, and the bunny played in that where you have what looks like dice and things in the background. Yeah, perfect.
Absolutely.
And that's just a touch that you could have half-assed and just made up music.
Oh yeah, which is what the Muppets did.
Yeah, go and grab random licensed music folder, click, put in, But there was actually some care to this, which is something that, again, we talked a lot about on the PS2 version, how it, look, it is meant for fans. It's got its flaws, gameplay, but it cared about the fans.
Yes.
And that's apparent again in this version as well. But I think gameplay-wise, it is easier to get into this game, or to be able to play this game more long-term. Because I could see, playing the PS2 game, yeah, it was fun to play. We may revisit it at some point. It might be it was fun.
Oh, absolutely. I'd love to get into more of the levels of that game that I never got.
And it's a fun game,
as a
but
kid
it's
and now
probably not a game that you're gonna sit down and be playing a lot, even as a kid. You're like, yeah, I played a little bit, and then, I went on to other games. And then I came back and played a little. This game, this feels like the perfect road trip game. When playing this, I was like, I get that flash feeling of I have my GBA, and I pop my game in, and we're on a 3 or 4 or 5 hour road trip, and I'm going to play this game for the whole 5 hours. Or till my batteries die.
Whichever comes first.
And that was the feeling for this, and that, perfect in my mind. That's exactly what it should be.
I will say this though, as positive as I am to this game, playing this game I did kind of realize, man, I'm glad I grew up with the DS instead of the GBA, because I look no shade to the Game Boy Advance. I'm sure it's a great console, but like if all the games on it at least looked like this, I feel like okay, fair. But I feel like I would get bored of it very quickly if I was a kid. Maybe. I don't know.
As the kid who dumped hundreds of hours in it and keeps wanting Nintendo to drop more GBA games on the Switch Online store, please. The lineup is so small, and you've had it for almost, a year almost at this point.
Just drop Spider-Man.
Drop more, like...
I don't know if I guess I can't really judge, because again, DS kid, so I can't really...
And also DS kid after they took the GBA player off of the DS.
Yeah, that's right, because I had a DSi. I didn't even have the GBA slot in it.
Because the DS...
toddler.
One of my favorite things about the Nintendo DS was it was not meant to be a GBA replacement. It was meant to be a GBA, go with it hand in hand, and they produced GBA games for a long time afterwards. Brought even a whole new GBA system out after the...
that's right, the Micro.
And the SP came out, I think, right before the DS DS launch. They were really close.
It wasn't like right before, but it wasn't that.
They were
long.
very close.
Because I still remember like being a kid and everybody like.
Well, I had the GBA, the original GBA, the flat screen with the
taco.
Yeah, that was there, and that was out for quite a while. And I had that one. My brother then got the SP, and then I want to say about a year later, I got the DS at launch.
I do still remember like. In the cafeteria as a kid, like it was like some kids had GBAs and some kids had DSs, so there was definitely some overlap between.
And they were absolutely still producing them, and they were producing GBA games, and that was still a major thing because it was not the DS was not a Game Boy replacement.
Yeah,
it was a different console.
All I remember about the GBA was that I had a weird-ass lineup of games for it.
Oh, well, everyone did. Everyone's GBA lineup was always weird.
I had Spider-Man. I had fucking Jimmy Neutron Jet Fusion, and I had Tak and the Power of Juju.
Wow,
that is what I remember of my GBA.
My first GBA game was it Mario Kart? It might have been Mario Kart.
That's right, I had that.
That's funny. Mario Kart was my first DS game.
I think Mario Kart was my first GBA game. Obviously, the Pokemon releases, Dragon Ball Z Legacy of Goku 2, and Boo's Fury. There's a Yu Yu Hakusho game my brother and I had. The first Spyro game, I went out and got that immediately and then was like, oh.
See, what I'm getting the sense is that I was also a child, so...
and then a bunch of movie tie-in stuff, and I said, okay, this is a great tangent because this is hilarious. So when I had my GBA, Yu-Gi-Oh was really big, and I got a Yu-Gi-Oh game specifically for a card. It came with a card. It was an okay card, but it came with it. I was really excited, and then I got the game and I played it on a trip up to visit we visited family with my cousin, and we were out at a restaurant, and I thought I dropped that game. Like it dropped, it was gone, and I was like, and I'd only owned it for like maybe a week at tops, and I'd lost it. I was like, I lost the game, and I was really upset. Fast forward a decade later. Wow. And at my cousin's house, he was like, look at this GBA game that I found of Yu-Gi-Oh! This was awesome. Like, I didn't realize I owned this game. And I was like, that's mine.
You bastard.
A decade later, it was found, and he had it, and it was...
You treacherous swine.
But
I shall carve your heart out with a spoon.
It was a great console, and I think this is the type of game that I would have played a lot of on it, because one of the great things about the GBA was those quick puzzle-type games. The Mario... porting all the Mario games from the Super Nintendo era onto the GBA. You had... and the SNES, because you had Mario Advance 1, 2, and 3... And it were great. You had Worlds and Yoshi's Island on it. You had the first Mario and Donkey Kong game. Those type of puzzle games. They really worked on it, and something you could play consistently on the system. And that's a good way to port Larry Boy over, was to make it a puzzle game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, it definitely... this is probably the perfect way they could have done this game on this console, I think.
And that's not to say the game's not without its flaws. It's very, very easy. There's not a lot to it. It's not a deep game.
You could probably beat it in an afternoon.
And while the writing is funny, it's not always as good as, say, the console predecessor was.
It's not knee slapping or whatever. It's like there was one line that was pretty good. It was I think it was the video game world.
Yeah, I think that's
where it was. Alfred was talking about like different doors. And it's like, remember, Larry, the one on the right is the exit, the one on the left is the closet. It only happened twice, Alfred. Like, that's funny.
That was probably the best, because he was like, I can remember everything. And he was like, remember this. That only happened twice, Alfred. But obviously...
We also ran into when we got to the level where we were guiding Bob through, we... had to deal with the moral implications of food eating other food.
There was
indeed. Because that's because they do add characters. Because there's 8 worlds, and there's only 2 people to save in the original special, not counting Larry Boy, who brings it up to a whopping 3.
Right.
I mean, the console version had to add Paw Grape and Mr. Lunt. This one...
That's right, they did.
This one adds Junior and Bob, and I'm guessing...
I'm guessing Laura, because
I'm
we
guessing
had
Laura
sprites
because
for it.
There were sprites for her. And their temptations are similar stuff. Like, Bob's is that he eats a lot. Junior's is he likes basketball kind of thing.
And Bob's also is like he's in the penthouse and he doesn't want to leave.
Yeah.
It's like, I have everything. I don't want to leave, And so it is... unlike the first one does a lot better job of telling the first one, the PS2 version, the console version does a lot better job of telling the story, whereas this one I think does a lot better job of the gameplay.
Yeah, I think that's
a lot there. Is that it has a lot of the VeggieTales look and charm, whereas the other one had a lot of the VeggieTales writing and charm. I think is what you go through it. And I don't think either is necessarily bad or good, but I think as a VeggieTales fan, they are both. I'm glad we have them. I wish we had more.
Yeah, something Absolutely. Like that. So.
But I don't think there's a whole lot more to say on the actual game. Like, it's...
Not necessarily.
It's a pretty basic game. It's fun. The controls are surprisingly good. And it has a lot of rewards for beating it.
It does feel really nice to speed through.
Yes.
Like, if this game was more popular, I could see it having a big speedrunning community. Because for me, it felt fun to speed through. Yeah.
And we were both trying to find ways to get to the end without using necessarily the ways they had you doing
it.
There were somewhere it was pretty easy. It's like, you could do this whole puzzle, or I could do a sprint jump. Or you could do a sprint jump, yeah, I guess.
Or there was one that was like, you could do the swing this way, but what if I swung that way? I have enough time with the flight to go up all the way up there and not stop at the middle level.
Yeah, that could be seen as a flaw of the game. Like, the power-ups you can do, it takes like 2 seconds to do, but you have the power-up for like 10. So you could very easily break the game with the flying power-up, which lets you fly all over the damn stage.
Every time you two play a game, a video game developer cries.
No, they love us. That's why they listen to us. That's why they're going to bring us more good VeggieTales game and a good Muppet RPG.
Cross over the two. Bob and Larry Superstar Saga. Let's go, boys. Jeez. They're already red and green.
And I think that is kind of the end. This is like that just that longing of... I wish there had been more. I wish there were more. I wish that, it's not that these the Bad Apple games sold awfully, but they didn't sell well enough for people, to be necessarily...
Yeah, Big Idea was on the decline, so...
Finding any information on them online is really hard. Their reviews, as I said, Metacritic had 4 reviews for the GBA version and 8 reviews for the PS2 version. IGN at least reviewed the PS2 version. They reviewed it bad.
Yeah, it's like a 4.8 out of 10.
Come on.
They did not review this version. I could not find a Nintendo Power review of this one. There might have been in the magazine, but I couldn't find any.
The speed run is 17 minutes, 10 seconds.
That is...
Jeez.
But, when... We have played some bad licensed tie-in games. We've mentioned Muppets. Obviously, the M&M game, where, things like that. Where, it's just... There's not a lot to it. Whereas these games, I think... they're fine games on their own, but man, if you are a fan of VeggieTales, there is something just a little bit more to them. And so, like, these games were tailor-made for the three of us.
Absolutely.
So, hey, video game developers, I don't need, like, a humongous AAA title, but, would you like to, like, I don't know, give me something VeggieTales?
Coming soon, VeggieTales the fighting game for the Apple Arcade. God damn it!
Why is it always for the Apple Arcade?
It's a PS4 Spider-Man clone, but it's Larry Boy. Would play.
I would.
Would play.
Look, I'd play a PS2 Spider-Man 2 clone Larry Boy right now.
No.
On the PS5.
No, you know what I want? I want... No, give me a Maximum Carnage clone. But it's Bob and Larry. But they're still fighting symbiotes.
What would that look like?
There's just no explanation.
What would a venomized Larry Boy look like?
That's the thing. You never know. It cuts away.
Oh, no.
And I think that's just the biggest thing from it. There's a sense of longing. There's a sense of longing. And while this was tremendous fun to play, we all were laughing and enjoying it. And yes, making fun of Mason a little bit. But
I was hoping we wouldn't bring that up.
But look, Mason got to make fun of Thomas and I on playing Forza, so it's only fair that we return the favor.
Is it?
Yes.
Is it?
Mason will return the favor again here in a few weeks.
When we play NASCAR.
Right.
Look, it's just left turns. Like, come on.
And then it's going to be really hilarious when we finish near the end of the season with some first person shooters, and we're going to just enjoy that.
Oh.
But I think that's just. This game was fun, and maybe there's an element of us all sitting together and playing this that may even enhanced to it that you probably wouldn't have had when this came out. That being a Game Boy Advance game, you were playing it by yourself on your Game Boy. There's no multiplayer really. There's no connecting the Game Boys. Like, there's that element of, like, I get that maybe in this modern era, this game actually might be a little more fun because I can hook it up to the TV.
There is a significant possibility for that. But I honestly can't imagine me being, a little VeggieTales fan and getting this from a Game Boy and losing my absolute shit.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I would have been a 17-year-old kid when this came out, and I would have absolutely still wanted to play it, but I didn't realize it came out. Like, that's the thing, I did not know this was a game. And that I think that's the unfortunate thing, is just this and the PS2 one were not heavily marketed at the time, and that's also maybe the era we were in and things like that. But like, yeah, it's one of those. It's like, I wish we had more.
Who's we? You speaking French?
Yes.
Who?
We
are the French peas.
Yes. We are the French, please. Anyway.
Oh man, the peas are dicks in this game.
Pesky pea.
Yeah.
They're always dicks. Though.
That is kind of the thing. They're loosely based on the French from Monty Python and the Holy Grail. So
Yeah.
Of course they are.
What a weird thing to reference in VeggieTales.
That's why.
There are a lot of weird, kind of weird.
Mm-hmm.
Of all the things to pull from for Larry Boy, Tim Burton's Batman. Yes. It's really interesting. All the ways all the inspiration that they pulled from.
And we didn't play the last couple of levels, or last couple of worlds, so it's possible that this complaint is null and void. But I do have my one real small complaint. Where was the Larry Boy theme? Where was the Larry Boy theme?
Yeah.
I feel like that should have been a lot more, and it wasn't there.
Well, was the Larry Boy theme in the original game?
I don't think so. Because
Why?
I didn't play to the very, very end. If it played, because usually the episodes end with the Larry Boy. Larry Boy. Anyway.
Well, I don't think that theme is in the special either.
That's disappointing.
Yeah, I don't think it is.
Well, it's in the first two.
Because the Larry Boy theme in the special was replaced with the theme that's in the title sequence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, played by Korn. Get it? Because they're actual Korn.
Hey, Video Game Studios. There's still 2 more Larry Boy episodes you could turn into video games, and I would play them.
I mean, that's fucking almost 30-year-old episodes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And?
You
have Video Game Studios. I know how expensive a video game is, but you have one buyer right here, and isn't that enough?
Yeah,
Well, I mean,
just go back to the PS2 era where it was like, yeah, we can make a sequel to the Warriors on the PS2. Why not?
Well,
Or that was a prequel.
Before that happens, VeggieTales kind of needs to, be a thing again.
So hey, listen to this podcast and help VeggieTales become a thing again.
Yeah. Get another VeggieTales
Only
show.
you can make VeggieTales a thing again.
Yes. If we could just find a company that won't screw over Phil Vischer for the love of all things. For the love of all things.
Subscribe to our Patreon so we can funnel.
Yeah, so we can fund Phil Fisher.
So we can.
Okay, Phil Fisher, I have $5 and a ham sandwich. Go nuts.
On this podcast, we like to ask 2 important questions of every game that we play. The first one is, how does it hold up?
I mean, this is kind of a weird question to ask of a game of this type.
Of a Game Boy game, it is, because
Yeah.
it is, even at the time, because it's a Game Boy game, but you wouldn't compare it to, say, a console game at the time,
Yeah.
and things like that.
I think, for me personally, I think it holds up fine gameplay-wise. I think it holds up actually pretty well gameplay-wise.
Yeah, I think actually really well, because there are a lot of Game Boy games that, don't hold up later on.
Right, and...
Yeah.
Hi, Muppets.
Take a shot every time we bring up that game.
Look,
this
I'm
episode.
still hurt. Remember, I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed, Muppets. I'm just disappointed.
That wound cut deep. Playing that game.
We'll play a good Muppets game eventually.
We can play the one for the Vita.
Yeah, if any of us owned it, and I'm pretty sure it wasn't deleted off stores.
Oh.
Probably.
Because that's how
Anyway,
it fucking works. But anyway...
does this game hold up or not?
I'm gonna say it does.
I agree.
I don't think it
Yeah.
does anything like horribly aged.
No.
It's not one where it's like, even if you're not a fan of VeggieTales, I recommend seeking this out. Like, maybe if you just want to complete your Game Boy Advance collection, and who knows, maybe you'll find like a fairly fun puzzle platformer, very basic but very fun.
Mm-hmm.
But for VeggieTales fans, I do think it's worth going out.
And I think as far as holding up, 2D puzzle platformers hold up really well.
Yeah, it's...
This type of style of game is something that is, at this point in time, still pretty timeless. Like, you can put something like this on any system. We've seen it. There's a reason that puzzle platforming flash games were everything for, like, a decade, So,
right.
like, because they're addicting, they're easy to play, and you can sit down and play it. They hold up really well. So, I think, there are elements that you can be like, well, all right, maybe some of this isn't as, I'm not going to maybe seek this out in the year 2023. But...
well, I mean, we did.
Yeah, but we're freaks.
Yeah. just listen to some of the things we've sought out so far on this podcast. I made you guys play Dragon Ball Evolution, guys. We watched the Super Mario Bros. Movie on Bleep You Watching. Yeah. Anyway, I think, but overall, it holds up really well. And if you do decide to play it, sit down and play it, it would be hard to not at least have a good time with the puzzle platforming.
Yeah.
Even if the VeggieTales is not your forte,
Yeah.
there is at least fun to be had in it.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Absolutely.
Second question we ask of every game that we play. Would you like to see a remake or a reimagining in a modern setting?
So this is one that I know wouldn't happen, but what I would kind of like to see is this re-released, but with pure 2D graphics. Like, not 2D pixel art, but hand-drawn.
Oh, okay.
Like, make it kind of look like that Larry Boy Flash show.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you're thinking something kind of like DuckTales Remastered.
Yeah, DuckTales Remastered or that new Gargoyles Remastered game, something like that.
Okay.
So that's kind of my thought process for it. Again, I would also just take a new VeggieTales game. I mean, I actually have a PC that works for games now, so fucking re-release the old PC games on Steam. I don't know who has the rights to them, but I'll buy them.
Jeez.
If you have your bingo card, Sean suggests just dropping it on one of the stores, put it on the Game Boy Advance store, let me play it. introduce people on the Switch Online Game Boy Advance or let you play.
It does that, and it gains like a cult following. Like, yeah, this game's
The
great.
speedrunners finally realize are like, holy shit, this game's been out this long. We could
AGDQ hype.
But like, I don't think there's a way to really remake this game very much.
Yeah.
So like, it would have to be kind of a reimagining, and so like, for this specific game, not really.
Like,
But for any new VeggieTales game content, yes, please.
here's my answer to this. How you said it was like $15 to get
Yeah.
this game used? I can't imagine it was that much more expensive, brand new. And they probably made a crap ton of these copies of this game, and it's also playable on 2 different consoles. Therein lies your answer. There's really no reason.
Mm. Yeah, and especially for this episode, Bad Apple, we already know we don't need it remade for the Bad Apple.
Yes.
Right.
But I would love either new VeggieTales content or just play through a lot of the episodes in different ways, Give me some fun, dumb VeggieTales fun.
All right,
I mean, again,
Battlefront 2 clone about Josh and the big wall, baby.
but I mean, again, that would kind of require VeggieTales and also Big Idea to be a thing, which they're kind of not right now. Maybe in a few years.
All right.
But at the
once
moment,
this podcast goes super viral, and everyone's like, "Oh my gosh, VeggieTales, it's a thing."
Sure.
we're gonna bring about the VeggieTales revival. Jeez.
That's about
Stranger things have happened.
Well,
Not much.
and if I do, I have fulfilled my life. I have but one goal in life.
I can die happy now.
Man, I don't do. I'm now conflicted in my thoughts. I'm like, do I want Phil Fisher to hear this or not?
Yes, we love you. Bring more VeggieTales. But what do you guys think? Are you a VeggieTales fan? Are you just confused by why we wax poetically about it?
What the fuck's a VeggieTales?
Let us know.
What's a veggie?
Send us an email, bleepyouplayed@gmail.com. Tell us why you want more VeggieTales games. Let us, and then Phil Visor hear that, we need more VeggieTales games. And if you want to suggest us to play something or watch something, you can do that by subscribing over on our Patreon, patreon.com/whatthebleep. $15 a month, you can do that, and we'll play or watch anything that you suggest for us, as long as it doesn't break the bank. Or if you just want to listen to all of our different episodes on 4 different podcasts, you can do that. It's just $3 a month. We have Bleep You Watching, all the Bleep You Playing a week early, Bleep Your Tears, and How the Bleep We Do It. 4 different podcasts available on Patreon. Patreon.com/whatthebleep.
We got a lot of different shit we'd like to do.
So much.
Yes.
We'll be back. With not VeggieTales.
And therefore infinitely worse, apparently.
Burn it.